computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having yourselves a fantastic start to the AM here. Happy Wednesday, right? And hope you're feeling sharp, refreshed, recharged, and ready to go, and looking to continue to compound on what has been honestly, pretty awesome start here to the trading week. We're finding some nice momentum, right? We're finding some nice rhythm. We're taking advantage of the market conditions that are in front of us. And yeah, right, truly been enjoying this process here a little bit this week, and really looking forward to trading here again this AM. I posted this in the Discord, tagging everyone across the board, but I do think it's worth mentioning here again in the live stream. I will never reach out to any individual here saying, hey, give me money so that I can trade for you inside my personal account. One, that is strictly illegal. I don't have the KYC requirements to be able to set up a family fund or a copy trading fund for all the members here of the Discord. So that is not something that I would ever do, right? Ever ask, ever approach you for. And the second side of things, right? That is not what this offer is. This offer is structured as a educational coaching mentorship program where I teach you how to make decisions for yourself. I will never, right? And I'll keep stressing this. I will never ask or tell you that, hey, give me money so that I can trade for you inside my personal account. If someone is reaching out to you with something along those lines, please tell them to just fuck off. And I I'm very sorry that someone has gotten those types of messages. It's something I've been dealing with here a little bit this morning. So apologies for the late start, but just want to make that exceptionally clear. That is never going to happen, right? And please make sure, right, that if anyone is reaching out to you from the blue, that there are just Michael DTR, no other characters or letters in their username, that their profile has all the like nitro add-ons, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, right, very very sorry that someone is deciding to take advantage or trying to take advantage of this community. It's making my blood boil a little bit here. But yeah, just wanting to mention that here across the board. And yeah, with that being said, right, no real rant or rave here this morning. Just looking forward to having a good trading day. Excited to be working with you all here this morning. And yeah, really looking forward to what should hopefully be a successful trading day, and one, right, where we get some good action, some clean PA, and can hopefully, right, keep compounding on what has been an awesome week. Yesterday, I posted the recap videos for Tuesday and Monday. For whatever reason, forgot to post the video there on Monday. So apologies for that. Literally was filmed. I just didn't submit the link. So sorry about that, guys. And yeah, I don't have too much else to say here, but appreciate all of you guys. And just wanted to make that message very, very clear. All right. So first things first here today, right? Check the economic calendar. So we got some Fed speak here. Nothing too crazy. And then obviously, right, today is crude oil inventories day. So we're going to be maybe a little bit quieter here this morning, right? We'll see how things go. But very important, right, that we manage those expectations here reasonably. And hopefully, right, we can kind of put ourselves in a situation, to take advantage, right, of whatever the market wants to give us here today. And we can keep kind of flying higher and put ourselves in just a great, great spot. So yesterday, right, really, really strong day. Took advantage of that momentum here to the upside, but markets are starting to maybe catch their breath a little bit here today, right? We've got a decreasing volume profile. We have a, not super enthusiastic action here in pre-market. We're back to having a pseudo two-way tape, which is obviously a little bit of a spoiler for what the market conditions are, but important, right, that we still basically maintain our flexibility and maintain our discipline. I think if I'm looking at price action here early doors, it's effectively telling me two things, right, or that a couple things are in store. So one, right, that the double fake out scenario might be back in play here today. Two, right, that the mean reversion scenarios to the downside could be in play here today. And just that we're going to want to be very deliberate in how we're viewing price action so that we're not getting faked out, right? Those are really the three things that are top of mind as we start off today's session, and looking forward, right, to seeing basically what the puzzle from the market is here today and how we could look to solve that. Obviously, right, we're on a nice little 6-day winning streak here, looking forward to making it 7, but wanting to make sure, right, that I'm focusing on the quality of my decisions and not just like forcing myself, right, to have another green day. This win streak, if we want to call it that, has been successful because each day we've just been focusing on getting a little bit better, right, improving our technique, managing our risk well. And we've had winning trades and, kind of winning routines here while we wait for basically markets to give us that consistent story. So the emphasis, right, or the focus that we want to put on ourselves here today isn't one of, I need to be green, otherwise it's a failed day. The emphasis we want to put on ourselves is, if I follow my rules, if I execute my technique well, if I follow my strategy, I'm going to have a green day, right? That's what we want to focus on. We want to focus on process-based metrics, and then the P&L will take care of itself. So with that being said, right, what's the count here on ES? Let's figure that out, and then let's go from there. Yeah, spot on, Jack, right? 2 out of 3 here to the upside without volume. And so we're looking, right, still for that continuation move, basically now towards 6,000. So we're at 59.10 here pre-market. We'll make our first pre-market level 59.20. And then we're going to, again, right, map it out just 10 points along the way towards 6K. With it being a 2 out of 3 without volume, does that give us flexibility to also look to the downside? Or are we kind of stuck here in a singular path? Yeah, we've got some flexibility, right? So we can play the ORB fake out, then break down. Oh, motherfucker. Good start here. Towards, right, and then we're going to be looking pre-market lows. We'll call that 5,900. And then go down to like 58.30. So we'll go 58.90. And then 58.30. So quite a bit of space here in both directions, right? We've got a little bit of a bit more than 1% of implied range here this AM. So let's make sure, right, that we do get a bit of momentum here prior to us being aggressive. And ideally, right, just volume showing up and stepping up to indicate, right, that change in momentum. All right. NQ, similar, not so similar. How do we feel? Yeah, same story, right? 2 out of 3 here to the upside without volume. And so we're looking, right, for either volume to show up or momentum to show up, right? Kind of the same thing. And so we're still looking, right, for that fake out, breakout past, we'll call it 21.5, right? That's going to be my starting point here to the upside. And then we've got it mapped out already to 22,000. I'm not sure if we're going to exceed that, so I'm just going to keep it as is. And then to the downside here, right, ORB fake out, then break down towards pre-market lows. We'll call that 21.2. And then Monday's low, right, of 28. And then we can maybe get down to like 24. Again, right, that 28 is approximately Monday's lows. And then we'll go 21, 27, 26. Cool. Make sense? Yes? Yeah? Perfect. How's everyone doing on YouTube this morning? Okay, CL here, right? It's crude oil inventories day, creeping up and towards the futures roll. This is going to be maybe a little bit of a chaotic ticker to trade today. So I'm just going to go NA going into CL inventories. So generally just don't trade CL here on crude oil inventories day. Right, it's generally not a scenario that is particularly successful, right? Just creates too much algo activity, and then pair that right with the futures roll happening here on Friday. It's going to slow me down far too much. So too many extra variables in play. If I were to trade, it'd be a bullish only bias. but I'm going to be staying away from this thing here today. Okay, Apple, green candle, decreasing volume gap down. So a 1 for 3 here, not exactly a strong indication of momentum. We'd like to see basically that consolidation breakout to occur here today. A move above 215, right? It would effectively be that catalyst. Tesla, nice little 3 for 3 here to the upside. So it's continuing its momentum from that bull flag. So this is looking pretty good, right? Acting a bit more like a market leader than a market lagger. Microsoft, is the volume increasing? Kind of looks like it is, right? That candle's just a little bit fatter. So again, right, it's a 2 out of 3 here to the upside with volume. So don't need to change here too much. But we need to get basically back up above yesterday's high a day, all that 450-ish for this to be really back in play. All right, Amazon. Looking a little bit indecisive, right? If we're stacking up those last 2 days in a row, it's kind of telling me indecision, right? Or it's sort of telling me that that price action is the middle of its range. It's a weak 1 for 3. Oh my gosh. All right. I don't know why I can't type. There we go. So, right, kind of in the middle of its weekly range here so far, weekly doji, kind of in the middle of that spot. So, very few reasons here, right, to be aggressive, and let's be a little bit patient, right, in this thing until this thing sort of settles down. All right, AMD, big gap up here this morning. You know, when we're seeing the market, right, kind of telling us in general that, hey, we've got like maybe not a tremendous amount of momentum. And then we have some individual names that are popping up and giving us sort of oversized, basically breakouts, right? Or oversized reactions here pre-market. That then sets us up more or less for a mean reversion type scenario, right? So, you know, these gap ups are significantly larger than what we're seeing on the indexes. And generally, right, those types of gaps like to get filled or like to be retested prior to them continuing to make highs. So, you know, as I'm starting to go through my prep here a little bit, maybe building a little bit of a bias towards a mean reversion type day, right? Or like a little pullback day prior to us making then those new highs. So again, right, another 3 for 3 here to the upside on NVIDIA. A gap up of almost 3%, actually 3% here on the dot. And that's a big move, right? Considering the implied daily volatility on the market is like 1.2% here today. That's a move that's, you know, conservatively, right, twice as large as sort of what the implied volatility is. So if we're seeing basically bigger moves than we expect, this ends up setting up, right, as an opportunity for profit taking effectively, right? So we're going to see if we actually get that across the board. But yeah, like if we're going to be bullish, we're going to want to see basically those gap fills fail and then continue higher instead of just looking for a blanket, a blanket chase here today. We're going to want to make sure that these stories sync up and become consistent. Okay, Meta, right, 2 out of 3 here to the upside without volume. Netflix finally found maybe a localized bottom there, but it's a 1 for 3. The upside, Google continuing to consolidate inside yesterday's range, made both a lower low and a higher high. So it's still stuck right inside this, we'll call it now wedge pattern. And it's a 2 out of 3 without volume. Cool. And then, like I said, right, VIX hanging out 18 spot 22. So a little bit higher, right, than what we saw there yesterday. But let's make sure that we've got a good element of momentum kind of in play here this morning. Otherwise, right, we're not going to be able to be very, very aggressive. Now, generally, the indexes are telling us a bit more of a realistic story, right? They're kind of giving us a small baby move, nothing here too crazy, nothing here that I would need to be like afraid of or worried about or scared over. So just wanting to make sure, right, that whatever narrative shows up here today becomes consistent. We've got slightly inconsistent narratives here among our leading names, which again, right, makes me maybe a bit more cautious over what basic price action is going to indicate for me here this morning. Unclear if it's going to be a textbook breakout day. It's probably setting up more to be kind of like a double fake out or mean reversion type scenario. So just going to have to slow myself down here a little bit, right? Not look to force any price action. And then once I see clean narratives, it should be a scenario where I can hopefully kind of take advantage of a nice move. So looking forward to seeing what the market has in store for me here today. And hopefully, right, we can get that A+ scenario so that we can get that, nice bit of PA. Any questions here, team? Everything kind of makes sense. How's everyone feeling? What do you mean on the gap up, gap down, Manji? What do you mean by that? Yeah, so on AMD, right, the implied open here is at 121. Yesterday's close was 112.46. So there's a pretty big difference here, right? Markets have effectively two windows, right, or three windows for tradable action. So there's the opportunity, right, that we trade, which is called like the regular trading hours, which is the 9:30 to 4, right? Just traditional US market hours. And then there's post market hours, which is very low volume, very thin liquidity, and not exactly incredible momentum. It's kind of decreasing probabilities, right? So it's basically just people implying that the open's going to be 8 points higher, right? 9 points higher, right? Than what it was yesterday. So like if we look at futures, right? Let's continue with this first, right? So, like I said, you have three windows. So we have the regular trading hours, 9:30 to 4. Those are the hours where you get the vast majority of the momentum and the sort of volume. And then you have the post market hours, which is from 4 o'clock till 9 o'clock Eastern. And then you have the pre-market hours, which I think starts at 5 a.m. and goes till 9:30. So we're seeing a lot of basically buyers in those sort of two thin liquidity hours, right? So in that post-market and pre-market, we're seeing a lot of buyers basically show up and dominate price action. Historically, when you get moves this aggressive, those participants, right, are going to be looking to take profit off here and to basically lock in, right, this $9 win. On futures, right? Futures are a 23-hour market, which is why you see this behave as a kind of solid candle in the pre-market, whereas AMD or like our individual tickers don't have that. The market for those is the 9:30 to 4, and then there's kind of like that pre-market, post-market. Well, like saying that it's accumulated or related to accumulation and distribution, it's everything is accumulation and distribution, right? So every bits of consolidation, right, is accumulation. Every bit of profit taking is distribution. So that kind of just describes price action in general. I wouldn't call this manipulation. That would be also an unfair statement. It's just that there's limited liquidity, right, inside those pre-market hours, right? So it's very easy to basically like sway or to dominate the supply and demand curve just because there's less market participants. So it makes it easier for you to get an overreaction move. So like if I'm thinking back to when I was trading, I wonder if I could bring up volume here. Come on. I don't know why it's not letting me. Okay, so either way, right? It's just that it's easier to basically dominate the supply and demand, right? There's less market participants that trade there in those overnight price actions. So if you're like opening up a big position, right, you could buy, 10% of all the volume that's available and push price action higher. So I wouldn't call that manipulation. I wouldn't call that anything. It's just you've got thinner volume, so it's easier to win the supply and demand curve. So like fundamentally, right, trading is just supply and demand. So you need more buyers, right, than sellers. If you're going to go higher, you need more sellers than buyers if you're going to go lower. And in those thin volume environments, right, or in those kind of thin volume conditions, it's just much easier to skew that in one direction or the other. That's really all it is. But yeah, generally when you get those big moves, right, anyone who bought, yesterday at 110 is looking to take profit now that they're up, almost 10% in a day, right? It's just a natural spot to trim some positions. Just want to make sure, right, that doesn't then turn into like a waterfall here to the downside. So overreaction, gap ups tend to lead to moves that get faded, right, just based on profit taking. And we want to make sure, right, that we're not chasing higher when the whole market is taking profit. Oh, all right. Any other questions here, team? Like truth be told, right, inside the like in traditional US markets, there's very little manipulation because it's too highly regulated, right? So there's like, things like if I were to buy 5% of market volume on AMD in a single day, I would have some SEC officer, right, contacting my compliance team the following day. They'd be asking for me to register my position, to disclose all that purchasing, all that kind of fun stuff. So it's very hard to manipulate markets, or at least manipulate kind of US markets because the regulation is too extreme and the cost, right, the penalties for being caught manipulating are far too high. Now, there's still always going to be scenarios where someone knows something before like a news event or before earnings or before whatever. And insider trading is always going to occur. I mean, we see it with politicians here all the time. But generally, right, if you're doing something that aggressively, you're just going to go to jail, right? Unless your name is Nancy Pelosi. So I don't really buy the theory that markets are rigged or markets are manipulated. Yeah, I've just seen too much. Too many issues, right? Like these funds and these banks, they've got compliance teams of like 500 people, basically to make sure that these things don't happen. And they take that very seriously because the penalties, the fines, the potential jail time that is on that effectively is possible, right? When you get caught doing that, it's just far too high. All right, so we got a minute here till market open. Kind of a weird pre-market session. I don't know if I found my rhythm here. But yeah, looking forward to today's trading day. Trying to see what basically shows up. Kind of feels like it might be a day where things are a little bit slower to start. And then we can go from there. Yeah, Nancy, she's got some she's got some cannons and gotta make sure that we're not getting in front of them. That's for sure. All right, team. So 30 seconds till market open. Yeah, I saw that. That's good branding. Good branding from whoever introduced that. The thing with these like bills in the US, right? They'll call it something, and then it'll be like in the fine print, it'll be like the Pelosi Act, right? Prevent elected leaders from owning securities and investments. And then it'll be like, let's cut funding for school kid lunches. Like that'll be what the act actually is. So they do a bunch of pretty greasy things in some of that legislation. I've said it before, and I will say this again. But if you're like a DTR member and you want to improve your trading, probably the only other option you have is to become Pelosi's intern. Like if someone leaves me to go work for Nancy, hands up, you did a good job, you did the right thing. But besides that, I'm not sure if you're going to find a better edge. So again, right, early profit taking here on AMD and NVIDIA. So let's see, right, how the markets want to behave here this AM. Again, right, probably anticipating today to be a little bit more of a fake out day or a mean reversion day. And so this might be kind of the opportunity for us to execute that double fake out scenario we've been talking about or that I mentioned over the weekend. So yeah, I might have to be a little bit more patient here this morning, which is fine by me. I have no problems with that. We can go from there. Like in the last 7 days or so, right, we're up almost 3%. So we're trading really well. We don't need to be hyper aggressive here, right, to try to make back any cash. We're in good shape. We've been making good money. So let's just see if the market wants to cooperate for us here and give us a good story. Again, right, what we're going to be judging here now, if the thesis is correct, is how strong the breakout is through the opening range, right? So the first attempt to break out, does it hold? Does it sustain, right? Do we continue to see that momentum? Or does it end up being kind of like a nothing day or a nothing bit of price action, right? Where it fakes out, right? So if NQ fakes out here to the upside, we're going to want to see a fake out here to the downside and then look for a breakout above the fake out high or the fake out low. And then CL again, right? Not on the tradable list here this morning. Ugh. Okay. That was I don't know if you guys heard that ding. That was a CL signal ding for a bullish mean reversion on the 2-min time frame. Not interested in this. Pretty good from NQ. Actually, a little bit surprising. AMD back to highs, also maybe a little bit surprising. So if we're going to push here, right, and we're going to leave those gaps behind, kind of tells us also a little bit about the strength of the trend, right? Tells us that, hey, this trending price action is pretty strong, that we're willing to basically leave those gaps in the dust. You have a chance to go increasing volume here on the second candle of the day as well, which would be pretty rare, right? That doesn't happen too often. And if that's the case, right, that will be our trigger to be a little bit more aggressive here this morning. So kind of a fascinating open, actually. Okay, so we'll be watching NQ here to the upside, right? We got 20 seconds to go. If this thing doesn't close with that increasing volume, I'm going to be shocked. Okay. And we're looking, right, for a breakout here towards that 2R range. So stop loss would be 21,386. And it's a long, right? 21,386. And we're looking at one contract here. And I'm kind of using that 400 as my support zone, right? So I want to see basically that act as my trampoline here to the upside. So I'm watching here very closely, team. Look, see if I can get a gentle pullback. Okay, I am in. Average price, 21,475. Every day I start the trade off with a loss. Always, always, always. Minus 299.28. Again, might just set back up again for me. That's interesting. Huh. Okay, staying away for now. So I have to be 367 now as a stop loss. Fine, higher high, higher low. Hey guys, so I am back in 21,380.50. One contract here. And let's see if this thing can pop. And no. So minus 573.56 here so far. Kind of a bullshit start to the day. I'm just watching, Mabel. But I've got nothing to say. I got nothing to say, right? Okay, maybe we have that green reversal. Or green to red reversal, sorry. Shaping up, right? Let's see if this volume can come up as an increasing standard here somewhere. Surprised. We don't see that, like that second candle of the day. Usually if it's increasing volume, we get pretty much a trend day, pretty much always. Very high probability of it being a trend day. Shouldn't say almost always. That's a little bit of a frustrating first reaction, but I took 2 stabs at that, right? With one thesis. I'm okay with that. Now, right, we're looking for basically a breakdown here to the downside, right? And that little fake out lower. So stop loss would be 21,346.75. I'll just call it 47. Okay, so watching. Might not be able to get the pullback I need here. All right, guys. So I'm in 21,322.75, one contract. Stop at 347. Come on. Okay, Sal, see if we can crack under 300, right? That's going to be our next kind of target. Beautiful. Okay, so might have a chance to pyramid here. Just let this thing find some support. Maybe not. Does put me now green on the day though, right? Does put me now green on the day. So let's see if this thing can keep cracking down. Okay, guys, I've just pyramided into a second contract. Stop loss is going to be 305. My average price is 308. So let's see if this thing can keep cracking lower. And that was a beautiful pyramid. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So stop loss now 308, 305, average price 308. Okay, I am out of this trade. I am out of this trade. And that was for 385 bucks. Exit price on this was 298.25, 298.25. Again, we'll see if this thing wants to reset back up. Down 197.12. I should have probably taken the $1,000 when I had it. Didn't take that. That's all right. Not a bad second trade. Again, we're still in business here, but it'd have to be the pullback entry technique. Maybe we could go aggressive. Moving pretty fast here so far. Top would have to be 315. Too fast, way too fast, way too fast. Okay, now we've established our fake out lower and our fake out higher. Becomes here and here. Making myself laugh because what I thought was going to be a slow start to the day, 3 trades by 9:52. Funny how that goes. Yeah, we're looking for a breakout basically through either of those levels here. No, I'm down 197.12, Preet. Down 197.12. I was green. I was up like $1,100, and then on the pullback, took the small win for like 380 something. My pyramid entry price was 293. 293. So that ended up costing me about $100, maybe $120, something like that. Which is unfortunate, but had I maybe just survived, would have been good. That's all right. That's the way she goes. Okay, as is, I can't chase a breakdown here. Ay. Ruthless. Okay, AMD and NVIDIA, right, attempting their gap fill moves. We're just looking, right, for the same story on the indexes, effectively. Okay, so now this is our fake out low. Well, guys, we can always find an indicator, right, that it's going to be bouncing off of. I'm not going to use that information because it's not part of my process and not something that I've back tested here in the past, right? So I don't look at anything else besides what you see on my screen here. I get that it's an observation, right? But in my experience or in my opinion, you can always find an indicator that tells you what you want to see, right? So I don't care about them. All the stuff that I use is basically custom scripts, so that it helps me identify the patterns that I've seen. I think with too many indicators, it's just too easy to get confirmation bias over what you want. So if you have it on your chart, cool, but just make sure that you actually back test those things and understand that when you're back testing it, that something like that is a lagging indicator. So it will always look correct in hindsight. Ooh, CL being a nightmare, so happy to be away from that. And there's a little part of me that wants to play like this low vol pullback type scenario. With effectively this being my stop loss, 346. Gonna wait. There's like that. There's that thought bouncing around in my cranium. Keeps rejecting on little pullbacks higher. Thing is, though, right? I don't have to be in any significant rush here whatsoever. 10 points away from being green, right? So I want to find the best 10-point move, not just the first one. Where are we at here today? 197.12 down. Yeah, and that is that low vol pullback scenario. But it would have to be something like this. What was that? 16 points of risk. Still watching here. Still watching. Stop would be 340. 21, 340. Need to get an entry above 324 as long as we get the correct reaction. So I'm just watching this, trying to buy myself a little bit of time as I'm watching this pull back. Too fast. Better, much better. I think I just missed my execution button there. Kind of annoying. So I'm just going to wait for this inside bar to close, right? And then look to potentially get an entry here. Tried to get a fill at 328. I honestly just missed my button. That's bullshit. Okay, well, happy I did miss it. Perfect. Interesting. Maybe there is something good left in this world. Yeah. I mean, would have had a chance to be green, but so Ajay, right? That should have been a trade where you would have at least taken profit off there. You were up 2R on that position, right? You had 12 points of risk and you had a 28-point move. So once you're up 1R, you can't let that trade go red. Once you're up 2R, you absolutely cannot let that trade go red. So I would never move your hard stop loss. If you feel like you need to move your hard stop loss, just close your trade and take the win. Okay, so now we're looking for an upside move here towards that fake out high. Which one, Sammy? Which one? Like I got stopped out because price action moved above my pyramid high, right? So I pyramided into my position. I set my stop loss to be 308. And then it touched that, right? And pulled back down. So I got out. So once I pyramided in, right, I changed my stop loss location. Okay, so stop loss here would be 349 on this long. Now it'd be 347.50. Okay, nope. Now we're looking for the pullback technique. So we need a entry or stop would be 300. That might not be realistic. Let's see. But no, once I pyramid into a position, Sammy, right, my stop loss goes just below, right, or just a little bit better, right, than what my average price is, so that I'm protecting a win. All right, guys, I'm in. I don't know why I didn't hear the ding there, but I am in 313.50, 313.50, stop loss 300. Long, right? Long. Yeah, I just took the stop loss there. But that's just screaming fake out. Oh, that is a ruthless fake out. Oh. No, it was simply my stop loss is 308 on my pyramid position. It touches 308. I have to get out, right? It's that simple. So it pulls back to a point where I'm no longer thinking that this idea is correct. I have to get out. I don't know if I understand your statement anymore besides that, right? If it pulls back past my average entry price, that's my trigger to get out. So it's just that binary, right? Oh, that is a ruthless fake out. Yeah, I literally touched it 297.50 and then 40 points later. Because I'm a little bit confused by the misunderstanding of rules here. I'm a little bit confused by that. We do the same thing every single time. So I don't get it. I don't get it this morning. I don't understand where the confusion is coming from. Yeah, that was a nasty fake. So yeah, I won't be trading on Monday. Got some family coming to visit. But we'll talk about that, guys, later. I still need to focus here. And Sammy, it's always the same thing, right? I need three things to continue to hold on to a trade, right? So I need the strong candle shape, strong volume profile, holding lower lows. That's it. So if I get those three things, I'm going to look to continue to hold. If I don't get those three things, I'm going to look to get out. Market makers do not give a shit about us, Cole. They do not. We don't make enough money to even pay their commissions. I don't see that. Nice work, Kyle. Have a great day, man. Yeah, and that's why we're looking, right, for ranges in between those fake out lows. That's why I'm targeting, right, that fake out high. And if I were to play a downside breakdown, I'd be targeting a fake out low. Right, we're basically playing that range bound price action until we get separation away, right, from either of those levels. Could I do this? Pretty aggressive. No, bad reaction. I'm going to wait. Yeah, that's effectively the fake out low, right? Fake out low was 5898. And 9 seconds left on this candle. Nice work, Jeremy. All right, guys, I'm in 313.75, 313.75, stop loss 297. Come on. Come on, keep pushing here, keep pushing. Can't find my setup alerts channel today. This is driving me nuts. Okay, keep going here, keep going. Actually, team, I have a correction here. I've got 3 contracts. Okay, so far so good here. So far so good. That's 1,300, 14, 15, 1,600. I've closed at 41. I have closed at 41. I am just not taking that gift. Actually, fill price 339.25. Made a potential mistake there with my position sizing. So just taking that gift, right, and running with it, right, not allowing that to cost me any money. But a lot of work here today. Holy. That was a good exit. That was a very good exit. Yeah, that means I'm sitting on 731.48 here, 731.48 in the green. And that was an awesome exit price. That was freaking awesome. And so the reason, right, to close that trade, one, made a mistake here with my position sizing. So I had too many contracts on. So the second I noticed that position, I got to start looking for an exit, right? Because having more risk exposure opens you up to drain more mental capital if you're wrong, right? So that's point number 1. Point number 2, this is like Wick City on Wick City. So I've got more reason, right, to be more aggressive in how I'm managing my P&L instead of hoping that I get bailed out. And Rusty, that's exactly why you close it, right? The second you notice that issue effectively, right? So like, I think that the time between I made the correction of, hey, here's how many contracts I have from the second I saw it to when I closed that trade was like 15 seconds. So you notice a mistake, you get out. You don't set yourself up to hope you get lucky, right, on your mistake. And even if I had 2 contracts, that would have put me green on the day, right? So I'm not like, I don't have any reason to be like too angry on myself. Nice work, Kiki. Are you out for the rest of the week? Let's go. You do some awesome traveling, Kiki. Well, it's a great way to end the week. So well done. Congratulations. I mean, if you're thinking it's a Friday on a Wednesday, I want to live in your reality. Yeah, how's your hand? Hey, that's all that matters, right? That's all that matters. Well done, Kiki. Killing it. So, in what I thought was going to be kind of a quieter session has ended up being a very busy session. Funny how that works. I think that's probably a reason why you're probably feeling nervous, Rusty, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so close to my biggest ever target. And then you kind of break down. I know that for myself personally, like, and you probably remember this too, Rusty, right? Like, remember when I did in the pandemic, like the 100K to 1 mil challenge? And basically, as I was getting to up almost being 1 million up in profit, so the family fund was sitting at like just around 1.1. It was like 20K up, 20K down, 20K up, 20K down, where that was like almost becoming a psychological level for me, where like my own P&L was a psychological restriction. And then I think I had some trade that took me like, it was like 80K, and it took me way over the top. So those psychological restrictions we place on ourselves are very much a real thing. And I even find myself, right? Like if I'm watching my P&L chart too aggressively and I start to notice that I'm at like a round number, I always get like stuck obsessing over it. So like I feel like sometimes the more that I monitor my like big picture P&L on a day-to-day basis, the more it actually becomes like a psychological barrier. So it's ridiculous how our mind tries to play tricks on us. Busy, busy, busy here. Oh, 6 trades, I think, on the day. What a world. And honestly, we've not really gotten any separation away from that 339 as it pops 10 points as I say that. But see, it's, I know maybe this sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but like being focused on getting your biggest ever payout is a worthy focus, right? It's just basically not allowing that to change your behaviors. That's the hard part. All right, one sec, guys. I'm just gonna go make myself a quick cup of coffee. Just give me 2 minutes. All right, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. How's everyone feeling here this morning? Everyone okay? My YouTubers, how you guys doing? Love it, team. Love it, love it, love it. Nice work, Cole. Love to hear that. I mean, all things considered, we didn't miss out on too much on this trade anyway. It was the one that faked me out that's annoying me the most. The little fake out rip, that was the one that that stung the most. Everything else I feel pretty reasonable about. So Ajay, right? You're close. And you're close because you've been really following your process well. Make sure, right, that that continues to be the obsession. $500, it can happen in one trade, no problem. But make sure it's the best trade you can take, right? So that's awesome. Love to hear that. Okay, CL at crude oil inventories, maybe giving us like a triple top here. Kind of interesting. Every now and then, this job makes me laugh. Like, and I think it's not like it doesn't make me laugh because like it's funny. I think it just like it gives me that feeling of like insanity. It just like I don't know, it makes me realize that sometimes you got to have like a few screws loose to be a trader. Like yeah, well that's on inventories data, right? So crude oil, the data just dropped, and this is just algo driven price action here. Yeah, I've got some pretty wild stories from some of the guys I used to work with back in the day. Of this just them just being absolute nut jobs. So yeah, it's just algo driven PA, Aj. So I've got very little interest in that. I mean, I think if we look at this here reasonably, maybe it could even be like this. And then like this, right? Kind of your wedge. Less pronounced on ES. What's it? 1038. Beautiful. I think so. Like to a certain extent, yeah. Because like even when I was working in the UK, like my trading day would start at like 2:30 in the afternoon, I think. And we would always call it 9:30 Eastern. And like you can see my clock here, right? I still have that at 10:30. Oh, I know, Ajay, but if you're like a degenerate football fan, having games start at 10 a.m. is the best. Like you just do some exercise, you wake up early, do some exercise, and then just go like couch potato with a bag of chips rest of the day. Oh, best. It's the best. The thing that I'm struggling with the most, I already wake up pretty early. Like wake up 5 between 5 and 5:30. And my Premier League, so I'm a big Chelsea fan. Like that's kind of like my sporting passion. I mean, I love the Eagles, but Chelsea's probably number one. But like there was a game last week at 4 a.m. I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't wake up this early just to have my day ruined. And they lost it like 2-0. I'm like, all right, glad I didn't wake up at 4. Woo. And there's some fuck you price action. CL. Here's the thing, I still feel like there's action left in today's session. I do feel that. Nice work, Kyle. But dude, if you say you're done for the day, be done for the day, right? Because when that works against you, that is the most tilting and frustrating, right, reaction that you can get as a trader. So when you say you're done, be done. Go enjoy your life. Like the mental capital risk of seeing your $1,000 day turn into a $1,300 day or a $1,500 day isn't worth the feeling of seeing your $1,000 evaporate, right? Like you're going to feel marginally better for making a little bit more money, and you're going to feel like the world's biggest idiot if you give back all those gains. So you're going to make, I mean, like if you average $1,000 a day, that's $250K a year. That's awesome, right? That's more than enough money. But if you let those $1,000 days turn into 0 days, right? Like your risk reward on making an extra $300 versus losing $1,000 is going to be really tough. And if you say that you're done and then you take a loss on that next trade, all you're going to try to do is try to get back to being up $1,000. And then now you're going to be down 600, right? So you're going to be up at 400, and then you're going to double up your position sizing to get back to $1,000 again. And now you're going to be down 600, right? So like I'm a big believer that if you're a trader, you should be optimizing for freedom, not for P&L, because when you optimize for freedom, it's easier to walk away, right? So like I'm self-employed. I trade as a full-time career, but doesn't mean I'm trading all day, right? Make my money or I don't make my money, and then I go enjoy my life. Right? Go for a hike, go play around the golf, go ride my bike, right? Go for a hike with the dog, go sit in the sauna, right? Whatever it is. But Trading is a lot more enjoyable when you're optimizing for freedom. And then when you're using that money, right, to basically increase the cool things that you're doing, that's when this game becomes unbeatable. So don't trick yourself into thinking that $1,000 isn't enough. Like, most people don't make $1,000 a week. Now, I'm in BC. Right? Like the average median salary for a Canadian family is like $78,000 a year as a family, right? So that's like 2 income sources. So if you're making $1,000 a week, you know, USD to CAD, right? That's you making the average family income in an hour, right? In 1/40th of the time that they're doing it. So that is a tremendous amount of reward for the work that you're doing. Don't lose perspective on that. Because I know from my own personal experience, I get the most tilted when my P&L goes from green to red, right? When I let a green day turn into a losing day, that's when I feel like the world's biggest idiot, because it was completely avoidable and it was pure greed that drove me to losing more money. So fuck that, not worth it. Right? And one of like the most important things that we can realize as traders is that what feels best for our account in the moment is rarely what's best for our account long term, right? So the more and more we can fight back against those impulses and stop turning the market into our personal like FanDuel account, the more likely you are to keep your money. And the hard part about trading isn't making money. The hard part about trading is keeping your money and actually seeing it hit your bank account. So don't add extra areas of resistance that makes that challenge even more difficult. Right? When you commit to being a trader, you commit to getting paid for your decisions, not your time. Always. For me, Joe, it's just too noisy. Too noisy. So I can't trust the signals that I see on those time frames. So I lose interest in being able to trade them because it's too noisy. And for myself personally, like I can already get a little bit of tunnel vision pretty easily when I'm trading. So I don't want to make that process even easier to occur for me. And I think the problem with 1 minute candles, or even like I know people that trade even shorter than that, is it makes each move feel larger and more aggressive than it is. And I think that that triggers bad variants of my psychology. It makes me feel FOMO easier. So not interested in that. And here's a whoops. So like if I were to look at my back testing data here, right? And I'll go to ES. Like look at my bull profit factor, right? Look at the size of the average loss versus the average win. Right? It gets better and better the longer the time frame that you move through. So from my perspective, right, that 1 min time frame is just far too noisy, creates too much variance. And generally, I don't see what edge it provides for most traders. Price action effectively has not moved here for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, like an hour. Kind of boring. Yeah, if we can get over that wedge high and break out on volume, for sure. We'd have a chance to test high a day again. Kind of feels like it's just setting up for an afternoon move. Like that's increasing volume, but it's not nearly enough. Ugh. Come on. Like even since like 10:15 to now, the volume is pathetic. Let's see. The very least, right? The very, very least, it's got to be above this 1030 bar. All right. So I want the aggressive technique here. And I'd be using basically this trend line as my reference point if we get the pullback technique. Otherwise, right, if it's going to be aggressive, then it's just going to be my confirmation high. So basically a pullback into like 52-ish, right? Or a breakout above our breakout candle and then a retest of 370. Okay, so for now, I'm going to watching here, right? Stop loss would be 343. Be looking at a 52, right? A trend line support. That was too fast. Maybe not. Okay, so still watching here. Still watching. Basically just like triple checking my position sizing here, right? Making sure I'm not getting that mistake again. A little inside bar here doesn't kill me, still sets me up for the aggressive breakout technique or the pullback, right? So I don't have to be in a rush here. But a good bounce off of that trend line. Absolutely good bounce. Still watching here, team. Still watching. Come on. Come on. Yeah, it'd be 2 contracts. Maybe 3 if I could get like 50. Come on, you can do this. Come on. All right, guys. So I am in 352.25, 352.25. Kind of a crappy fill, actually. Stop loss is 343. Uh, Come on. Okay, just got stopped out there. Well, it's kind of an aggressive sell-off there, right? Shame. We're definitely going to be looking for a breakdown continuation narrative here, though, guys. Definitely going to be looking for a breakdown continuation narrative. Like, look at ES, right? Breakdown through that fake out low. Okay, so it have to be something like this here, right? Stop loss 309. Just wait it out for a second. Okay, no, wait. Okay, so stop would be 314, 314.50. Let's see. Okay, nope. Again, just faking out lower, lower, higher, lower, lower, higher. Ay, ay, ay. Sitting on 292.84 on the day. I gotta get rid of some of these lines, starting to get messy. Yeah, let's wait for this inside bar to close. We could use the pullback entry technique here. So stop loss 342. Hey guys, I am in 325.50, 325.50, stop loss 342. Let's see if this thing can break down. I didn't like that reaction. All right. And what I tried to use there was the trend line as my entry target. Maybe was a bit prematurely. Let's see. It's got to start breaking down here. Got to start breaking down. Come on. Okay, I got stopped out there. Fuck. Still giving me a long setup here now, potentially. Goodness gracious, I'm bouncing around like a ping pong ball. That's exactly what we're doing, Joe, right? So I'm not sure where you see the divergence. right? But that's exactly what we're doing here. We're playing the ranges in between those blue lines, right? We've been doing that all morning. I'm not sure where that question is coming from. So target here would be like that 334 area. I'll go 21,332 so I can get 2 contracts. Look, if when you're struggling or like you're not getting a market direction and your default is to try to go impulse trades to basically take advantage of that move, you are lying to yourself over your ability to execute that successfully. Because if you could do that consistently, you would do that consistently. Okay, so still watching here, right? Still watching. He's got to sell off 10 points. Like, don't overrate your ability to be able to have a feel for the market, right? Okay, so watching here, right? Watching. Oh, that's mean. All right, still watching here, still watching. 6 more points at the very minimum. And we're playing, right, this reversal candle. This is my confirmation, this 1105 bar. Okay, a little inside bar, still in play. Again, still need that 10 points. And 5 more. Bounces. Oh. Okay, if this goes aggressive, then stop loss will have to be 337. It is gone aggressive. Okay, watching. Okay, guys, I am in long 347.25. 347.25. Stop loss 337. 2 contracts. Taking the long way around here today. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. Okay, that's 400, 500 almost. Let's keep pushing here. Basically need to see this breakout and hold above 360 on this candle. Come on. Keep pushing here, NQ. Keep pushing. Okay, so far so good here. So far so good. Got to hold 360, right? Next 30 seconds. If it closes under 360, I have to get out. All right, so 10 seconds to go. Okay, reasonable close. Okay, and I have just pyramided in So average price is $355. I now have 4 contracts. $355, 4 contracts total. Average price. I'm going to look to get out on a first decent size pop. Come on. My pyramid price, I can't find it right now. So let me focus on this for a second. Come on. Slow down. Just slow down just enough to get annoying. Come on, come on, come on. So first decent size pop here, right? I'm going to look to close my position. Sitting at just a little over $1,000 on this trade. Watch here carefully, team. This is going to be our potential opportunity. Keep going, keep going. Let's go. That's 2,300. Keep pushing here, NQ. Keep pushing. I believe in you. I don't understand your question. What do you mean? What did I use for my entry? So this is my reversal candle, right? This is my confirmation that bulls are back in control here off of these lows. Anywhere in between this green line and this red line is my appropriate risk reward ratio. And my entry price was 347, which was approximately, right, the high of that previous red candle. So all I'm doing, right, is trading this graphic, right? This is my strategy. This is all I'm doing, right? So I'm looking for fake outs to the downside, then confirmed by reversals here to the upside. That's exactly the scenario we got here. But truth be told, I need to really focus on managing this position. I can't explain this to you here right now. If you didn't listen to it as I was breaking it down in the moment, you're going to have to wait. This trade is far too important for me to waste any more energy on something else that takes away my focus from this. So if you're unfamiliar with the strategy, please work through the Start Here channel on the Discord. Everything will be explained to you there. Please don't ask me to catch you up when I'm in the middle of a position and have a lot of risk on. There's a part of me that wants to pyramid in here again. Okay, I've done that. Average price is now 361, 361. I'm going to be looking to get out of this thing here pretty aggressively. I've got 6 total contracts. Come on, give me a pop over 80. Give me a pop over 80. So like I said, average price now 361. Come on, pop, 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 pop. Come on, get through 80. It's 2,000 bucks, 2,300. Come on. And this is a fight here. Come on. Come on. Little inside bar, annoying, but doesn't kill me. Okay, again, watching here very closely. Maybe starting to show a few signs of exhaustion, myself included. Come on here, NQ. You got this. Here it goes, guys. Here it goes. Watch, 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 and look to take off as your P&L is increasing. Come on. Oh, NQ. Here we go, team. Here we go. $25. Come on. 26, 27, 28. All right, I am out. 385.50, 385.50 for 29.40 on that trade. All out. Let's go. Woo! Let's go, team. Let's go. Best in show showed up at the very end. Look, I'm happy to answer questions, but when I'm trying to manage my position, that is not the right time for me to ask me about my entry logic, right? Really not the appropriate time. So now, right, if you have questions, this is the opportunity. But guys, when I have, $12,000 on the line, I'm going to get annoyed when you start to ask me to bail you out. All right, guys, I am not going to place any further trades here. Any questions? I am done for the day. So that sits me right in 2,600, 2602.84 on the day per account. Guys, this candle here, right, is my increasing outlier reversal candle, right? It's the second most bullish candle on increasing outlier volume and larger volume than that big sell-off. So I'll get that little fake out lower, then confirmation that bulls are in control. And all I am doing is turning this breakdown, right, into a low vol fake out relative to this 1105 candle. I don't know how to answer that question, Joe. So I use candlesticks and volume as my confirmation standard, right? The volume needs to be larger than the previous bar, and it needs to be outlier, which is above that white line. All I'm looking to do is to execute strategies or techniques that replicate this process, right? If you're unfamiliar with this, please work through the Start Here channel, guys. Please. It is all explained in there, and it is called Start Here for a reason. Hey, nice work, Jack. Nice work, Mike. Let's go, Mark. Almost $1,900 on the day. That's fantastic work. And then, guys, for specific entry triggers, it's depending on, like, it has to qualify based on a risk management perspective, right? So how can I get the position sizing I want inside my risk reward zone? So in this situation, right, my initial entry was 10 points away. I had two contracts. So I wanted to be risking less than $500. So the difference here, right, is entry zone then becomes 10 points above my stop loss. Comes right there. So my entry trigger is based on my risk parameters, not on like some bullish engulfing candle. My candle is my setup trigger, right? The volume is my confirmation. And then my Fibonacci tool, right, that you see drawn out here is to help me identify my risk reward zone. Inside my risk reward zone, I have a spot where I can get my ideal position sizing, and that becomes my entry trigger. So Joe, I'm curious to know how you were down 1,500. That's about 3 times more than what I was at my worst drawdown. I'm a little bit confused by that. A little bit confused on how you got to that. Does that answer everyone's questions? Does that make sense? So there's 3 parts to every trade, right? There's the setup, there's the confirmation, and then there's the execution. Need all 3 things to line up before I'm willing to trade. It's not just bullish engulfing candles or engulfing candles. Well, he's sending you guys messages. Can you send me a screenshot of the message they are sending? If that is the case, guys, I will have to switch off of Discord and find us an alternative. I will not tolerate scammers and bullshit artists. Any questions here, team? Any questions? Any questions, team? Any questions? Please send me a message of the of what that scammer is sending you. Please send me a screenshot. Nice work, Bimiga. So, Joe, it's very specific, right? It has to be larger than the previous bar, and it has to be above that white line. Right? So it has to be both increasing relative to the previous bar and outlier. If it had to be larger than the opening candle of the day, you would never get any trades. Any other questions here, team? Final call here. All right, team. If no further questions, I'm going to kill the stream here for the day. I've got a little bit of work to do. I got to figure out where this piece of shit is hiding. So bear with me. I'm going to take care of this here this afternoon. And we'll be back at it again here tomorrow. Same deal like always, right? If you have any questions, hit me up. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. But have yourselves a great day, team, and we'll talk soon.